Hello everyone and welcome. In this video I'm going to code a complete tic-tac-toe game in C++. This is geared towards beginners, however you should have a basic understanding of how this language works. Now let's not waste any more time. Let me explain first what I have here. So I have here an init function where we're basically just going to set everything up. Then I have a draw board function where we're going to draw our board. Then I have a check tie and a check winner, which is going to check for ties or wins. Then we have a play function, and then we're going to have our main function as always. So the first thing I'm going to do here is code a couple of global variables. First, we're going to have here a Boolean game over. Then our board is going to be a matrix of characters 3 by 3, and then we're going to have a player, which is also going to be a character, and this is going to alternate between X and O depending on whose turn it is to play. Now let's code here the init function. Here I'm just going to set everything up. So first let's iterate through our board, then 3i++, and the same thing for int j equals 0, j is smaller than 3, and j++. I'm just going to say that the board at ij is going to be an underscore. So basically we're going to say that each position in our board is going to be empty in the beginning. Then I'm going to say game over equals false, and I'm going to say that our player is going to be an X. So now we can call this init function down here in my main like so. And now let's code here the draw board function. So we need to iterate through our board once again. I'm going to say I equals 0, I is smaller than 3, I++. Then I'm going to say for int j equals 0, j is smaller than 3, j++. And here we're going to see out a couple of things. So first we're going to see out here an underscore. Then we're going to see out our board at index ij. Then we're going to see out another underscore. And then we're going to see out a pipe, which is going to basically divide the columns. And then in the end, we need to see out a \n, like so. So let me pull this up, and actually I need to call this function here in my main. So let's say draw board, like so. And now we can run this code. Let's do that right here and see what it gives us. So now we have our board outputted. Now there is a couple of things that I want to change. First, I don't want to have these pipes here on the right. And the second thing, I don't want to have these underscores on the bottom. So let's go back here to our draw board function. And first of all, I'm going to say if I is equal to 2. So if basically we are in the last row, so the bottom row right here, then I'm just going to see out a space. And otherwise, then I'm going to see out that underscore like so. Then I'm going to say if the board at ij is not an underscore, so if that position is not empty, then I'm going to see out the board at the position I, position j, like so. And I'm going to delete this. I'm going to say otherwise, I'm just going to see out here an empty space like so. Then I'm going to do the same thing as this, but on the bottom. So I'm going to paste that right there and delete this. And then I only want to see out the pipe again. If j is different than 2, then I'm going to see out the pipe like so. So this should output the board the way we want it. And all right, so that looks much better. Let's get into the next function here, which is going to be our play function. So let me pull this down, and now I'm going to scroll down here to my play function. However, before that, I need to get my input, and I'm actually going to do a different function for that. Now, this function right here is going to return to us a tuple of 2 integers, like so. It's going to be called input. And in order to use the tuple here, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to say hashtag include the tuple, like so. Let's scroll back down to our input function. Here, I'm going to get 2 inputs. First, I'm going to get the row, and then I'm going to get the column. So I'm going to say see out here, enter the number of the row, like so. And this is going to be a space. Then I'm going to see in the row, like that. Then I'm going to see out, enter the number of the column, like so. And then I'm going to see in the call, and I'm going to add here a \n, and then I'm going to return here a tuple of the row and call, like so. So basically the user is going to input the row and the column of the place where they want to play. Now here in our play function, let's actually make this work. So I'm going to say while not game over, so while the game hasn't ended, I'm going to say auto row call is equal to input. So we're going to get the input here, and we're going to divide that automatically into a row and call. So our row here is going to be our row, and our column is going to be here our call. Now I'm going to say that the board here at the row -1 and call -1 is going to be the player. So what does this mean? Well, the player is actually going to input a row and a column between 1 and 3. However, our board is only going to have coordinates between 0 and 2, right? Because the board is going to be 3 by 3. So we actually need to set the board at row -1, call -1 equal to the player. And remember that this player here is a character, which is either an X or an O. Then I'm going to redraw here the board with the new play. And down here, I need to switch basically the player that's playing. So I'm going to say if our player is equal to an X, then I'm going to set our player equal to an O. And otherwise, I'm going to say player is equal to an X. So we're going to basically switch the player that is playing. And now we should have a playable game of a tic-tac-toe. Let me actually pull this up, and I'm going to run this code. Let's see if it works. All right, so enter the number of the row. I'm going to say 1. The column is going to be 2. All right, so now in the row 1, column 2, we have an X, then 2, 3, then 1, 2, and oh, actually 1, 2 is already taken, but anyways, then 2, 2, and so on, right? Now we do have a couple of problems here, and let's deal with that right now. So I actually ran this again to illustrate those problems. The first one is if I input a invalid number of row or column, it's not really going to do anything, but it's going to cause memory problems in the background. And the second thing is if I input a random data type like a string, as you can see, it's going to give me a huge segmentation fault, and it's just not going to work. So I'm going to go back to my input function right here, and let's see if we can make this work. So I'm going to delete this cin, and in here, I'm actually going to say while not cin row, and I'm going to make here a loop. And basically what this is going to do is while we haven't inputted the right data type, so an integer, we're going to continue asking for input. However, we need to do a couple of things here. The first is cin.clear. The second is cin.ignore. That's going to take in a couple of arguments. I'm going to explain what this means later. And then I'm going to see out what the problem is. So I'm going to say \n invalid play. Try again, like so, and then a \n again. I'm going to say enter the number of the row, like so, and then a colon and a space. All right, so what does this do? So like I said, while we haven't inputted the correct data type, we're going to keep asking for input, and we're going to clear the input stream. We're also going to ignore a couple of characters from the input stream. This is the number of characters we're going to ignore, and this is basically the delimiter. So we're going to ignore either until we found 256 characters or until we find a \n, and then I'm going to see out the problem and ask for a new input. Now, I'm actually going to copy this and I'm going to paste it right there because I want to do the same thing for the row, for the call, what am I saying? And this is going to be column as well. And that is how we're going to do this. I'm actually going to delete this \n because we don't need it. Now, the second thing we need to check is if we've inputted valid positions of the board. So I'm actually going to say here, if row is greater than 3, or the row is smaller than 1. So if the row is not between 1 and 3, I'm going to keep asking for more input. And I'm actually going to copy this and I'm going to paste it right there. I'm going to grab the row and let's say call here. So I'm going to do the same thing for the column. And this should be enough to check if our input is valid. Now, another thing we need to check is if the position of the board in which we're trying to play is empty or not. And that I'm actually going to do down here. I'm going to say while the board here at the row -1 and call -1 is different from an underscore. So while the position we're trying to play in is not empty, I'm going to say cout here, invalid play, try again, and a \n here, and a colon here. And then I'm going to say row and call is going to be equal to a new input. So we're going to say that the row and call are going to get the new input now for us. And what is this telling me? Expected a declaration. Can I not reassign this? So if I say auto, okay, so let's just create here a couple more variables. So apparently I can't reassign the row and call, so I just created new variables, and then I'm going to say row equals R and call equals C. And now this should work. Then I'm going to say board at the row -1, call -1 is player, and then I'm going to draw the board. All right, so now we should have our input validated here. Let me pull this up, enter the number of the row. I'm going to say 2, then 2. All right, that's fine. If I say 2, 2, this is going to be invalid play, try again, and I actually have a typo here. Then 1, 2. Then if I say hello, invalid play, try again, perfect. If I say 4, invalid play, try again. And if I say 2, 1, that is perfect. All right, so we have successfully validated our input. Now let's see if we can finish this game, shall we? Now, the way we're going to do that is we need to actually see if we have a winner or if we have a tie. So let's code all of those functions. First, I'm going to code here the check tie because this is actually incredibly easy. All I need to do is check if every position of the board has a piece in it, right? Because if we don't have empty positions in our board, and also if we don't have a winner, then that means that we have a tie. So for that, I'm going to iterate, let's say for I equals 0, I smaller than 3, I plus plus, the same thing for j. So for j, for int j equals 0, j is smaller than 3, and j plus plus, I'm going to say that if the board at the position ij is equal to an underscore, so if the position ij is empty, then I'm going to go here, I'm just going to return false, right? Because we don't have a draw, because we already have an empty position of our board, we automatically don't have a draw, we're going to return false. And if we have gotten to the end of this loop, and we haven't returned false, then that means that we do have a tie and we're going to return true, right? So that is going to be our check tie function. Let's go down here to our play function, and let's do that now under this. So I'm going to say if check tie, like that, then the game over is equal to true. And I'm going to cout here, it was a tie, exclamation point, like so. And otherwise, so else, I'm going to copy this, and we're actually going to change the player for the next play, like so. All right, so now if we have a tie, this should say game over, and cout it was a tie, and so game over is now going to be false. So it's going to be true, and this is going to be false. So we're going to basically exit this loop. So let's run this now. Let's see if I can do this. I'm going to say 2 2 1 2 3 2 3 1 2 3 1 1 1 3 2 1, and the last one is going to be 3 3. Okay, it was a tie, actually x1, but we haven't really done the check winners first, so it was a tie for now. So let's actually do that now. I'm going to go here to my check winner function, and let's do this. And this is actually going to take in a couple of things as input. So first the row, then the column, and then the player in question. And in here, we're going to have 4 verifications. So if we are playing, then there is no situation in which we play and the other person wins. Like if we're playing, then we're the only ones who can win. So all we need to do is check if the row and the column of the square we've just played in are equal, are all the same and equal to my character. So X or O, right? And that is this player that I'm going to input here. And then I need to check the diagonal and the counter diagonal. So let's get right into it. I'm going to say if board at the row 0 is equal to the board at the row 1, and the board at the row 1 is equal to the board at the row 2, then that means that the row is filled with the same character. So I'm going to see out here player and then wins, exclamation point, like so. And I'm going to return true, right? Because now we have a winner. So this is for the row. Let's do the same thing for the column. I'm going to say if the board at 0 and the call is equal to the board at 1 call, and the board at 1 call is equal to the board at 2 call, then this is for the column. Let's see out player and then wins, exclamation point, and let's return true. So now we have a winner. All right, so we have the row and the column. Now let's do the diagonals. So for the main diagonal, I'm going to say if board at 0, 0 is equal to the board at 1, 1, and the board at 1, 1 is equal to the board at 2, 2, then I'm going to see out player wins, like so, and I'm going to return true, and this is board, like so. However, I also need to check if the player in question is actually the one that we're checking, right? Because we might not have played necessarily in the diagonal. So I'm going to say, and the board at 0, 0, 0, 0 is equal to the player, like so. So if the player in question has actually played in that diagonal, then I'm going to say that he wins. And what is going on here? Did I not? Okay guys, I made here a mistake. I apologize for that, but this player parameter that we're passing in here needs to be a char and not a string, which is what was there before. But anyways, this is the main diagonal, and then for the other diagonal, all I need to do is change this to 2, 0, and this is going to be 0, 2, and these need to be 1 and 1, like so. And then if none of these conditions are true, then we're just going to return false because we don't have a winner. Now, all we need to do is go to our play function and check the winner. So let's say check winner, like so. This is going to take in the row -1, the call -1, and the player. All right. And all we need to do here is set the game over to true, like so. And I'm going to turn this into an else if statement. So basically, first we're checking if we have a winner. If we don't, we check if we have a tie, and otherwise we continue playing, right? So this is actually our game completed. I'm actually going to go up here and run this code to see if it works. Let's do this. All right, so I'm going to say 1, 1, then I'm going to say 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, and let's say 3, 3. All right, and now X wins. Perfect. Now let's run this again. Let's do a column, for example. Let's say 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, and 3, 1. All right, X wins again. Perfect. So this is the tic-tac-toe game in C++. I hope this video was helpful. I hope you learned a lot. If it was, please like and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.